Greetings, humans, and welcome back. I'm Joey Pigtails, and this is going to be my first podcast-type episode where I talk about a few things, starting off with the current headlines. LaptopGate. In case you haven't heard about this, during the main event, the guy who won it was conferring with his rail, who had a laptop out and was running a solver for the hand that was just played. A lot of talk has been had about the rules and the legality of doing this, and so far the WSOP has not indicated that this behavior violated any rules. But a lot of talk has been had throughout the poker world about this incident. I don't want to hash out all the rule stuff here. I will say that I don't think that having this type of assistant showcased on the main stage is appropriate, and the more I think about it, I personally don't think that utilizing solvers in this manner in between hands with a team of people should be allowed. But regardless of my feelings on the topic, I want to talk about the perspective of this incident as it relates to casual players and aspiring professionals. Every poker player knows that poker is a singular sport. It's not a team sport, and we aren't sitting down with a group of people to collaborate on strategy to win as a team. But the current dynamics of players selling pieces of their action does create a quasi-team environment where players have an interest in seeing the players they invested in succeed. And to that end, poker is a game of information and preparation. Those who have mastered both tend to succeed, and in this case, a lot of professional poker players have built some tight-knit communities of like-minded people who are prepared to help them succeed. It isn't surprising to see the use of solvers on the rail in between hands at the main event final table. Laptops and cell phones have been on the rails for over a decade, and the incredible slow pace of the final table means that players have time to step away and confer with people on the rail, including people who may have a solver pulled up and be ready to plug in some information. It's almost become accepted as one of those back alley ideals, or as the late great Eddie Guerrero said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I've said this in jest many, many times, and I'm not in any way accusing any of these guys of cheating per se. What I am doing is highlighting the fact that this is a game that is played for money. I win, my kids eat. I've got rent, alimony, child support. If something isn't expressly against the rules, you can bet your ass that people have thought about ways of exploiting whatever thing it is that they've found to exploit. And like humans do, that line is going to get pushed further and further until it becomes a problem. So what exactly is that problem the solution has become? Besides the talk about collusion and coaching during an event, there is a visibility problem with this situation. I look back on my first and only major event final table at the Heartland Poker Tour event in Daytona in 2011. I remember seeing a variety of poker personalities at the event, including Chino Ream and Maria Ho, but the thing that stuck out most to me was seeing Daryl Fish and a few other people I recognized as competent players all mingling with the eventual winner of the events. It was at that point in time that I understood that I, as an amateur player that wasn't overly studied, was outgunned in this fight. Even though I thought pretty highly of my skill, I was clearly the underdog to this guy going into the final table. Seeing those players huddled together and talking strategy was kind of intimidating, to be honest. They weren't doing anything wrong, of course, and I know that the emotions I experienced were all inside my own head and were a manifestation of my insecurities. I was understanding the reality that I had a lot of work to do if I wanted to truly be good at this game. But that feeling and those emotions were real, and I'm sure I wasn't the only person to feel that way or come to that understanding. Fast forward to this current main event final table. It's heads up and one amateur player who has some friends and family on the rail on one side, and you have a pro whose rail is filled with people who have purchased shares of him on the other side. The latter have brought a laptop and have coordinated a plan to solve each hand in real time and relay the information to the player between hands, having already put in the known relative variables and are just waiting on more details to get the output. Now, I've already said it once, but let me reiterate that the powers that be at the WSOP have already said that this conduct was not technically against the rules for 2024. The major discussion right now is about whether or not this kind of thing should be allowed in the future and whether or not it's good for the game. It was cool listening to Doug Polk, Alan Keating, and Daniel Negreanu talk about this in depth, but I'm not certain they truly understand the view of this behavior from the standpoint of the casual poker player. I'm not even talking about the amateur players, like the guy who took second place, but the casual fan who is going to see this behavior in the broadcasts. Most fans who have never played a WSOP event usually dream of doing so, and when they finally do, they're going to understand that the majority of people they will be playing against will be significantly better than they are. That's a given. But to play one of these events and watch a player retreat to the rail after any number of hands, whether it's every single hand or just one of them, and then have an in-depth discussion with someone who is actively viewing the solver outputs for the last hand played, turned off is a mild term for it. Confused, concerned, aggravated, those would also be appropriate. To be the person watching these teams actively plot against you in between hands is quite the negative experience, and I don't think the behavior is good for the game, either optically or strategically. As I said earlier, this is a game of information and preparation, but it's also a singular game, one player per hand. And while coaching can't and shouldn't be banned, I think that coaching between hands, shouldn't be allowed while the clock is running at these final tables, because it's really cringe and it's just bad for the game. It hurts the spirit of singular play and makes amateur players feel as if they are walking into a team sport without a team. Their pipe dream of navigating this field and getting lucky when it needs to happen is tarnished when they see that they have to play against teams collaborating on strategy right in front of them with the laptop set up and GTO Wizard loaded with all the current game variables waiting for the rest of them. I've talked with a few different recreational players, and it comes down to this. This behavior is a turnoff. These players view this behavior as real-time collusion, and the recreational players I've talked with are less likely to play WSOP events or large buy-in events of this type if this behavior is allowed. I hope Matt Savage and the rest of the TDA come up with a solution that protects the integrity and image of the game, because that is what ultimately matters here. What do you all think about this? Give your feedback in the comments, and let's talk about it. You'll remember in my last vlog I did a $100 to $2K challenge. I'm going to be filming this again soon, but I'm going to be changing it a little. Let me explain. See, I made attempt number 2 about a week ago, and it went really, really poorly. See, the 1-2 PLO game in Orange City, like most places, is a $5 bring-in game. So when I sit down with a minimum buy-in amount of $100, I'm not sitting with 50 big blinds, I'm sitting with 20 big blinds. With pot size opens to $20 or more depending on how many players limp in, this buy-in amount just isn't sufficient for me to play a disciplined game in the early stages of building the stack. Now, there are some mental game issues playing a role in that lack of discipline as well, but quite honestly, I don't feel that addressing those issues with this challenge as the focus would be beneficial. So my solution to this problem is that I'm going to double my buy-in. I'm going to start with $200 instead of $100, and this will give me the freedom to be able to open some pots and fold instead of feeling committed with a short stack, as well as be able to play some semblance of real post-flop poker. I'm still working on my mental game, or more like refocusing my consciousness to get back on track with everything after I've sulked for the past month after getting home from Vegas. I'm currently reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, the Caesar dude from Gladiator, for those of you unfamiliar. Its focus is on stoicism and understanding that events are happening all around us, and getting angry at things beyond our control drains our energy and serves no purpose and to waste time, among other concepts. I'm about halfway through, and I'm enjoying how a lot of these concepts are conflicting with some of my long-held tendencies, and I'm actually struggling a bit right now with trying to separate the concept of accepting and not getting angry by outcomes and the concept of accepting and hiding the emotions these outcomes bring to process them later. I've been conditioned to do the latter, and I'm recognizing that it isn't healthy, and there are better ways to look at life's trials and tribulations. One of the mental hang-ups I'm recognizing in myself is that I'm associating the show of emotion with caring, and when I try and rationalize disassociating emotion with an outcome, I feel as if I'm being forced to not care about the outcome, which is basically what this is saying. I guess I want to still care about the outcome, even if I recognize that it is beyond my control and that I should not allow that emotion to impact my future decisions. I'm going to keep reading this and look at a few more books as well. So if you have any recommendations, drop them in the comments for me and I'll check them out. Anywho, I'm looking forward to getting back into Orange City for my next cash game challenge session, which will be I'll be recording for the vlog, so it's probably going to be Friday or Saturday. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Joey Pigtails, and I am transparent, reminding you to be a good human. Bye.